Hey there, question. You ever wondered why? Many times in the past, you said, you know what? I am sick and tired of my life. I want to change. And you got the best of intentions. You really think, I'm going to do it this time. And then very quickly you find that guess what? That motivation is worn off and you're right back to your old patterns again. Well, if that is you, and by the way, that's many people, if that is you, you're going to love this video. Now, as I said, you say, things are going to be different this time. I'm all committed. I'm going to go to the gym or I'm going to lose weight or whatever it might be for you. You start like a fireball. And then before you know it, back to the old patterns again. I want to take you back to one of my students a couple of years ago, and I've heard this over and over and over again. Same story. She was in my transformational coaching program. And early on, she said, Jim, how come every time I go to the gym, I do okay for a couple of days, maybe a week, and before I know it, I'm right back to my old patterns again. And she goes, but I really want to lose weight. Well, if you really want to lose weight, how come you're back to your old patterns? Let me explain that to you. The reason that happens is you wanting to lose weight or make a lot more money or whatever it is for you, whatever, thing that you think you want. What I want to point out is that is a left brain function. The left-hand side of your brain is the analytical part of your brain. It's the part of your brain that thinks and analyzes. It even analyzes what I'm saying right now. Now, when you say things, for example, like, you know what, let's take body, for example, okay? Because people's big three life areas are money, body, and relationships. So let's take body because it's very concretized, okay? And we can even take money, either one, because they're very concretized, meaning you can look at an outcome and you can know whether or not you're getting the outcome. And let's say body. And many people say, well, you know what? I want to start getting in shape again. And I'm going to learn how to, I'm going to do X, Y, Z, and I'm going to learn how to do X, Y, Z, and I'm going to do it. And I promise I'm going to do it this time. And as I said a couple of times, people fall off track very quickly, or many people don't even get started. This is the same reason that 92% of New Year's resolutions fail by the third week. When New Year's is rolling around, people say, I'm going to lose weight. And then what they do is they say, okay, I'm going to clean out the cupboard. I'm going to get rid of all the ho-hos and then the Cheetos and the ding-dongs and the junk food. And Monday, I'm going to start eating right. I'm going to start exercising. And then so the weekend, you clean out all the cupboards, as I said, and you get rid of all the junk food. And you're ready to go Monday morning. And Monday morning, you're doing great. You're doing wonderful and you're feeling good about yourself. Tuesday, you're feeling great. You're on track. Wednesday, you're feeling pretty good. By Thursday, you're thinking, end of the week, been a long week. A lot of things have been happening. I'm doing okay. And then Friday rolls around and I've been there. People say, well, I was really good Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. I'm going to reward myself today and I'm going to have a hamburger or I'm going to have nachos or whatever it is for you. Before you know it, the following Monday, you're right back to your old habits again. Why? Because you're trying to change your environment without changing your subconscious identity, which is literally what fuels the environment. I'll give you an example here, real life, me, my dad, things that I learned. For many years when I wanted to start a business, and this day and age, I've created a very significant, very successful business that's brought a lot of money into my life. And I've helped a lot of people over the years. My podcast is one of the top in the world. So for many years, I had a hard time getting myself to do what I know I needed to do. And what I know I needed to do was to do all these practices to build my business. And I would start and then I'd fall off track. And when I started learning decades ago, what I'm sharing with you now, I learned that it wasn't my fault because I used to personalize and blame myself. I would say things like, you know what, you really don't want it. You're so lazy. You're unmotivated. I used to say all this negative self-talk to myself without even recognizing that I had learned to become somebody who's not a committed individual when it comes to task. What I mean by that, and this will make sense for a lot of people. I grew up with an alcoholic father, and I watched my dad start many home projects. And my dad would literally start, I don't know how many projects he started and never finished. So as a kid, we learn Socrates said, give me a child until the age of 8 and I will own him for a lifetime. Because see, we become indoctrinated as a small kid, as an infant, as a toddler. And when we pop out of the womb, we are like a video and audio recorder. We're recording the world, learning about the world, and we're learning about ourselves by observing the world. So I learned by watching my father. Again, he was an alcoholic, which literally affected his behavior. I learned that it's okay to start projects, but not to finish. And so then I learned it subconsciously through observation, but I didn't even know that I learned it. And all through life, I put myself through college, and I did finish that in 4 years of 2 degrees. But many things, when I didn't have an external influence watching me, I would fall off track. And I recognized that I wasn't committed to the outcomes that I wanted. So when I said I was not committed to the outcomes, I learned that by watching Dad. Because as I said, I would watch Dad start many projects and not finish. I never heard my dad ever say, you know what, I started XYZ project. I need to be committed, I need to be responsible, and I need to see this through. That's not what I saw and observed in my household. What I saw is my father starting and finishing, starting something else, actually starting and not finishing, starting something else and not finishing, starting something else and not finishing. So what I learned, that's the way human beings are. It's okay to start and not finish. So the way that this happens, the invention, the creation of our subconscious identity, is we have experiences in life, meaning we observe life. And in these experiences, as we're having these experiences, what we're doing is we're making interpretations. And then from those interpretations, we tell ourselves stories. And these stories become our beliefs, and this becomes our subconscious identity, and then this affects our actions. So whatever you create through observation as a child, whatever you create in your mind about your own subconscious identity and the way that life should be and the way that you are, is literally what translates into your actions. So for me, what translated into my actions was a lack of commitment to finish work projects, lack of commitment to finish building my business, to do things I needed to do to build my business. Let me go back here for a little bit because I think this will resonate with a lot of people. You know, I have coached, I don't know how many hundreds of thousands, if not millions of people around the world. I've been in this field now, personal development, for 32 years. My podcast is ranked in the top 50 on iTunes and Spotify in the personal development and educational categories, genres. And I've seen so many people, maybe in their 40s, and they will say things like, well, yeah, it could be money or relationships or many things in their life, even health. Why do I struggle so much with blank? Why is it so hard for me to find a partner, find a husband, find a wife, find a boyfriend, find a girlfriend? Why is it so hard for me to make money? Well, again, we learn these things as a child. And as we learn them, remember, experiences, interpretations, stories, beliefs, and these all actually matriculate into our actions. So as I was saying, we learn through experience, and then from experience, we create our interpretations, and interpretations go to stories, beliefs, and these actually matriculate and filter into our actions. So any action that we take, the action is driven by the subconscious identity. Now, I've coached people for many, many years. I don't know, millions of people, but definitely hundreds of thousands of people, no question about it. My podcast is ranked in the top 50 on iTunes in the personal development category and the educational categories, I've said before. And what I watch is people literally saying things like, and they're baffled about it. Why can't let's take a relationship for an example. Why can't I find the right person? I've watched people say, you know what? I am 35, 38, 40, 42 years old. I just can't find the right person. What I'm thinking when they're saying this is, what did they observe as a child when they were 5, 6, 7, 8 years old? Because what they observed is what became part of their operating system. And their operating system means part of their interpretations because it came from their experience. And this became their stories, became their beliefs. And this literally affects their actions. But these stories and beliefs and interpretations are running in the background. I once knew a guy when I lived in New York City 20 years ago. And this guy used to constantly say, there are no good women left in Manhattan anymore. And my thought was, when I lived there, there were, I think, 8 million people that lived in Manhattan alone. How can you not find, out of at least 4 million women, how can you not find one good woman? And I mean, there's tons of single women in Manhattan, but this guy constantly had a challenge. And what he constantly said was, there's no good women, there's no good women, there's no good women. Well, what he was also doing is programming his subconscious identity through repetition of thought, which creates neural pathways in the brain. But what I find is that people have challenges later in life, and no matter what they do, they continue to have the challenges, not knowing why, like me with the commitment and finishing projects. Why? Because I learned that from my father, but I didn't know that I learned it. So because I didn't know that I learned it, just like I mentioned the battery on my cell phone, because I didn't know that I learned it, this programming was operating in the background all the time. And when I had even had the best of intentions to start a project, something I was going to do in my business, maybe, I'm just going to be candid. I'll use YouTube as an example. One of my good friends at one point, he no longer is, was ranked as the #1 person in the world for ranking your videos on YouTube. And in 12 or thereabouts, he says, Jim, let's get you started on your YouTube. Let's start your YouTube channel. And I kept saying, yeah, we got to do that. And it's a great idea and all these kind of things, but I never did it. And I look back now and I'm like, where would I be on YouTube had I done this 13, 14, 15 years ago when I was prompted to do it? The reason I didn't do it is because I couldn't stay committed to the plan to get it done, because I learned that it's okay to not be committed to things. But again, I'm not blaming myself. I learned this from my father. So wherever you're sabotaging yourself, wherever you're not getting what you want in life, don't personalize it. It's not about you. Wherever you're wanting change and you're not creating it, many times we will beat ourselves up. We'll berate ourselves, saying, I'm so lazy. People even say things like, I'm worthless and I can't do anything right. And we say different things like this. You're simply personalizing who you have learned to be. A story I wanted to share a couple of minutes ago, and I just thought about it, to really poignantly illustrate this. When I lived in New York City, I remember one day being in and it wasn't McDonald's, it was kind of a fast food place, but I don't eat at McDonald's and I really don't eat fast food. So it's probably high quality, expedient food. You can get it very quickly. And there was this lady in front of me and she had a beautiful little girl with her. And the little girl was about 6 years old. And the little girl was asking the mother for something. And the mother literally looked at the little girl, and the little girl again was probably no older than 6. And the mother looked at the little girl and said to her, sometimes you are more trouble than you're worth. In that moment, I was aghast, because my thought was, oh no, what if that literally sunk in at the subconscious level? If that little girl believed what her mother said, that became part of her programming. Now you might think, well, okay, she's 6, no big deal. But you know what? Now, metaphorically, she's 26, 27, 28, 29, 30. And she's wondering why she can't ask for what she wants in life. She's wondering why she can't speak her mind. She's wondering why she never wants to ask anyone for help. Now, I don't know the exact reason why she's doing these things, but what I know is that it was created from her subconscious programming. Now go back to it's actually 25 years ago when I heard that. So she would be like 31 now in the example that I'm giving you. So at 31, she's wondering why. Why can't, why do I dislike myself so much? Why do I not take care of myself? Why am I not into self-care? Why do I take care of everyone else seeking their approval, but I don't take care of me? Well, this child learned at 6 years old, because of her mother's imprinting, this child learned that she's not worth it. So she carries this like the battery in the background. She carries this with her throughout her lifetime, not even knowing that this loop is playing in the background. So the reason that you feel like your life is Groundhog Day and you want to change, but you find yourself having great intentions and not changing, it's not your fault. It is your subconscious identity, and it's the conditioning you learned as a child. And if you want to actually start creating new things, you've got to be someone new. You've heard the old phrase before, you keep doing the same things, you're going to get the same results. Well, where I work from is if you keep being the same person, notice what I said, being the same person, you're going to keep creating the same outcomes. You've got to be someone different, to do something different, to have what you want in life. This being said, I help people in my app. I have an app, and I've got a program in the app called the Be to Have Insiders. I literally coach people one-to-one in that group when we're doing live group calls. And if you'd like to work with me and you'd like me to help you become more so that you can do more, so that you can have more, go to jimfortin.com/insiders, jimfortin.com/insiders, and I will teach you how to become the person who actually, when you say you're going to do something and you have the intention of losing weight, making money, starting a business, whatever it might be, I'm going to teach you how to become the kind of person you need to be, to do what you need to do all these things, to have what you want in life. If you've enjoyed this video, hit the like button and please subscribe. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you over on another video. Bye-bye.